Pack SD. With that being said, let's jump in. Hey, what's going on, Grant?
Doing well, doing well. How about yourself?
I'm feeling good because this week has actually gone by extremely fast.
It is. It's gone by fast. You get to Thursday, you feel like you're really getting there because then, Thursday night football comes on and you're really getting the football swing of things here. So only 2 more days till game day.
Exactly. NFL, it's not my cup of tea, but it definitely warms me up for some college football.
I was gonna say not my forte either, but at least gives you that little taste of college football coming up.
Exactly. I think the only reason I enjoy NFL anymore is just to watch some players that I liked from college and
Right?
fantasy football,
Fantasy
which,
football, right?
God, that mine has been a disaster. I don't know about yours.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are in that boat with seems like a lot of injuries running around, but
All right. Yeah, I'm ready for some football. I'm ready for this weekend to get here.
yeah.
I, I think the easiest way to say it is I'm just ready for the weekends to get here because this team is so much fun.
It is, right? It is. You're exactly right. Like you come off a win on Saturday, especially like the one we had this last week. It just gets you
Mhm.
more excited for the next game. It gets you more excited for the next game. And so, as a longtime Yote fan, not every year is like that, right? And I mean that's any fan in general, but
Exactly.
it's a lot more exciting when the wins are rolling. You're ranked number 4 in the country. It's hard not to get excited every week, regardless of the
Oh,
opponent.
and I tell you what, I think first of all, we need to give a huge shout out to Mitch with those gifts that he got for all the celebrations.
Oh yeah, he was he
He
was he was bringing them all on Twitter. If you're not on Twitter following us guys, you'll have to get on there because Mitch is always bringing the gifts and he's got a lot of good ones on there. I was
he
cracking up this
absolutely
week.
crushed it. Oh
Yeah.
man, he got the whole team rolling though too.
Oh yeah. Oh
Uh,
yeah.
He had one for Keandre Jones, and I know he absolutely loved it. But the funniest one, it's between Travis Tice and Aiden Bauman.
Oh yeah.
Aiden just doing the windmills running down the field,
Oh
or
yeah.
apparently Tice is pulling out a sword and slashing through the defense, which I'd have to agree with.
Yeah. Absolutely. I say after a game like Saturday, it's hard not to have fun with what was going on at the dome. So those guys are having fun. Winning is fun, like we said. So, but as I'm sure Bob would tell you, heads down onto Murray State, right?
Oh, there were some good notes in that game, but there's definitely some things that we need to work on. So we're gonna get in the film room and we're gonna work on those.
Uh-huh. Oh yeah, you can hear it.
I think I have his post game conversation with the media pretty much down to a science now at this point.
That's right. He's only done like what, a million post game press conferences. I think he's got it down too, right?
Honestly, you just need to know the synonyms of those words in that sentence, and you can crush any speech of his. You could do it yourself.
That's true. So,
But we bring up Tice, we bring
mhm.
up the running backs having some fun. I kind of think that's where we start right now. You want to hit us
Yeah, I
with?
mean, I think based off of what we've seen from Murray State this year so far, as each week goes on, we get a little bit more and more information about the teams that we're playing. And boy, from the information we have, it sure seems like another day for Coyote running backs to have a lot of fun on Saturday.
Um, so to the people that are watching, I'll let you know. Grant and I get in this room before we go live. We're in here 15 minutes together, just chatting, doing a little
Mhm.
BS and back and forth. And he was talking a little bit, and I had watched the highlights of the UND Murray State game. And my Google search, my most recent one, just so everybody's aware of where my head's at going into this game, is most team rushing yards in a game NCAA history. I felt like that is a very important stat for us to know because if we want to, I'm pretty sure we can break that record.
Yeah, I mean the from what we've seen from the Yotes this year and what we saw on film in particular last week, I don't
Mhm.
think USD is going to have any issues running the ball, unless something significant changes from now until Saturday for the Murray State defense. But I think we'll be going to the ground early and often, to your point, and I
Exactly.
think similar formula to what we did on Saturday is going to be kind of the key to winning on the road. So it's the only caveat on this is that this is our only our second road game, so making sure we're staying focused
Yes.
and getting down the getting our routines down on the road or whatever they have lined up. But I have full faith that they'll be ready to play on Saturday.
Yep. And for the people that are wondering, the NCAA record for most rushing yards in a game, at least according to that search, was 786 by Davidson back in 2018. They had almost 200-yard rushing. So I think, LJ might have to sneak in there and get some stats as well. But Tyson, Pierce Jr. having 200 yards each, definitely got a chance for it then.
Sure. Well, yeah. Why not? Let's go for it. I agree. I agree.
So yeah, and it's funny because based off of what I've seen from Murray State, whatever Coach Davis chooses to run is going to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
I walked away after watching that UND Murray State game, going, that was just an AAU high school pickup game.
Yeah, it was a track
Defense
meet.
optional.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I struggle with that, but things that I saw that I think Kyle fans and Aiden are going to truly enjoy. Their blitzing is very obvious. Like they don't hide their blitzes. They do not cover it very well. You know where the blitz is and where it's coming from.
Yeah, as I would say the same thing. Watching the defense, I don't think they do anything exotic or crazy. To your point, I think a lot of the film that I watched was mostly from last week, just because it gets another Missouri Valley opponent. But what you take away from that, there's some pretty poor tackling that went on by both sides of the defense. Some pretty poor coverage. And to your point about the running backs, the running back lanes were wide open for North Dakota. They were running it to the sideline. They were running it up the middle. They were running it pretty well wherever they wanted. So all of those things, like we talked about, that we had success with last Saturday at SIU, I don't see any reason why that's not going to translate again here on Saturday out in Kentucky. So I think you're exactly right. That's a glaring thing from them, is that the defense seems to be optional at this point. So
now I saw it during the Murray State UND game. They announcers posted it on there, but I can't remember the numbers exactly. I think I got them backwards. But Murray State has brought in 46 transfers in their offseason. And not only that,
it's got to be a record.
I mean, if there's somebody that is doing more out of the transfer portal, it's definitely Coach Prime out in Colorado.
Yeah.
But you got Murray State nipping on his heels for sure. And
Yeah.
not only that, they brought in 19 freshmen.
Yeah. And we should, preface this too. This is a game where you have two programs who are in completely different situations, right? You've got USD, who in a lot of people's minds, at least in ours, is ready to take the next step, make the playoffs, make a deep run into the playoffs, top 5 team in the country. You've got Murray State, who's on first-year head coach, really in rebuild mode. To your point, first-year head coach, you expect a big roster flip, and especially in this transfer environment, you're going to flip almost an entire roster, which, to your point, he's kind of done. So, they're just in such a different spot that it's almost kind of comparing apples to oranges from that perspective of where the two teams are at. So, there'll be better days ahead for Murray State. I think, like with a first year head coach, you're just trying to figure out who's who in the zoo, so to speak, with your roster that you have. So, but to that point, I will say, you kind of mentioned a little bit earlier, but offensively, they do have some good players. They have some ability to be explosive, if you will. So, again, I don't know how closely people followed it, but really Murray State was going kind of punch for punch with North Dakota in the first quarter, really through the first half. But they had some just kind of back-breaking errors on special teams that really were costly. They had I believe they had a roughing the kicker, or roughing the punter, excuse me, call that gave UND a fresh set of downs when they had a nice stop. They had a muffed punt where it was kind of a high snap. Punter jumped up to grab it, and UND ended up blocking it. Again, kind of getting excellent field position there. And then I think they also had a kick where the receiver muffed it and gave it back up to him. So, you take away those special teams errors, really the
Mhm.
offense was moving the ball decently well. And then just seems like they kind of ran out of gas and just were kind of too far behind the eight ball at that point. So um, I don't think the offense is maybe as reflective of what their record is. I think that's a little bit better than maybe it could be, but
Yeah, and I think this works out perfectly for USD when it comes to this game because, I mean, you saw we were sharing it around on Twitter earlier today. Now, I don't fully understand the tracer stats with that, but I can tell you when you're number 1 in the nation, you're obviously doing something right in there, and, like, it's probably the easiest way to say that, and USD's defense is top notch this year, and our number 1 area that I mean, what we're truly best at is rush defense,
hmm
but we have not played a quarterback like this yet.
yeah, that's a good point. And yeah, I guess two good points, right? Jaden Johannesson. A lot of folks locally maybe recognize that name because he went to Washington High School. I
Mhm.
believe it was a three-time state champ, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep,
Uh, I think he was on that team that went whatever 33 straight wins or whatever it was. So he's a good player. He actually started his career at NDSU,
yep,
then later transferred to South Dakota Mines.
yep.
He was actually up for the Harlan Hill Award, which is like the Heisman equivalent in D2. So good player. Came over to Murray State this year, and I think he's a grad student, so 6 or 7 years he's been playing collegiate football, or at least been in collegiate football. But you're right, he's an
Uh-huh.
athlete, right? He can run. We saw that last week. If he gets outside of the pocket, he can definitely run. Um, and at times, I thought he threw the ball pretty well. There was also times where he was pretty careless with the ball,
Oh,
so there's a
yeah.
little bit of going to that. But he hasn't thrown it a ton this year. Like we said, they really commit to the run, which unfortunately for them feeds right into our biggest strength, in my opinion, too. Like you said, the run defense.
Exactly. I think what their first biggest play, against UND was Jaden Johansson, geez. On 3rd and 2nd, they ran an option play. I think it was like the 45-yard line, and he took it to the house.
Yeah, he does. He
Right.
has that ability to score just about from anywhere. So we haven't seen a quarterback quite like that. We thought we were going to see a quarterback like that last week,
Yes.
right? With DJ Williams, but ended up being out, of course. But you're right. The quarterback situation is definitely unique for the first time for this defense, and I'm sure that's a lot of films being watched on that.
And I take a look at this, and I mean, just so everyone's aware, I had some fun, and this was just if I look at the highlight video, so someone to actually go and follow after you're done watching with us here on YouTube is Matt Highlights 2, and that's number 2, not TO, but he actually has the ability. He puts all these games on there, and he does it in 30 minutes or less. I mean, Domino's Pizza isn't faster than that. And it was a great way to break down the game. He cuts out the commercials, he cuts out the timeouts, he cuts out the huddles. I mean, it goes tackle right into they're lining up for the next play. And so I had a chance to really fly through that first quarter and a little bit of the second quarter. And that's, where the meat was in that game for Murray State's offense. The craziest part about how good they were at running, their O line is completely uninspired. They
Yeah.
they wouldn't move.
hmm Yeah, you're exactly right. The running backs really were kind of doing the legwork on it, where they were getting to the second level, and I'm not sure if North Dakota just wasn't there, if they were selling out in other areas, but plenty of plays where Murray State running backs are going, 50 plus yards, 30 plus yards up the middle, up the sidelines. I mean, UND was doing it right back to them, right? So it was kind of hard to keep track at certain points of which running back was where. But, um,
Exactly.
the other interesting part about their backfield is they have I'm going to use a pun here on purpose. They've got a stable of running backs that they like to use.
Oh, nice. It's
So
gonna you had that one teed up for how long now?
I was gonna say, yeah, after I can't remember oh yeah, the whooping cough joke you had last week. I was like,
I
I gotta
see.
find something. I can't let Jay get away with that. So, but really, they do. They've got a stable of running backs where if you include the quarterback, they have 6 or 5 running backs and a quarterback who all have over 22 carries so far this year.
Yep.
So we're talking about 32 carries, 32 carries, 26 carries, 24 carries, 22 carries, and then even a running back with 15 carries. So they're committed to the run and they are committed to giving it to whoever's in there. So uh,
Hmm.
I think, again, if we have the ability to shut down the run like I think we do, I don't know that they're going to have a lot of answers. And to our point earlier, Jaden Johannesson has only passed the ball 72 times this year over the
Yep.
course of 4 games. So forcing him to beat us, I think, is the equation. And I think that again feeds into our strengths, like you were talking earlier.
And I'm also looking at their ESPN season stats.
Hmm.
And one thing I find very confusing on here, I just noticed, I was looking at the rushing here, and the one that scored their touchdown, unless I got the numbers mixed up, let's see here. Now I'm concerned at who I was looking at. Maybe it was Jaden Hines, but maybe I was reading numbers wrong because he doesn't have a rushing attempt on the season yet. Okay, there we go. Quadarius Jennings was the running back. They have
Yes, I was going to say Jennings
yep,
got a lot of work. He's got a couple touch, and that's the other part
yep.
too. All these running backs, 2, 2, 2, 3, 0, and 1. So even it's not like they have some sort of goal line specialist that they like to give the ball if they're getting in close. I don't know how many attempts they've had at that type of situation either, but
Yep.
um, it is interesting. I will say too that the averages that they're doing are decent, right? They're averaging right around 4 to 5 yards a carry, so they're having success running the ball to a certain extent. But um, the level of competition is a little bit tough. They played, to start the season. I think they started at Missouri, which uh, Missouri, I think, they've got their eyes on the playoffs, in
Mhm.
FBS, but that was a 51-0 type loss. Um, played an interesting game against Butler, but then Mississippi Valley State, I see that they're winless on the year and they beat them 59-8. So it's been kind of a weird schedule for Murray State coming into conference play. So it's really hard to measure, uh, but I think that North Dakota game gave us a little insight to that. But nonetheless, 35 points is uh, still a decent showing from the offense, even though it was a
Yeah.
track meet type game.
And I think one thing to mention too about that Butler game, Butler's a non-scholarship school
They
for
are.
football, at least.
That's a pretty bad loss, right? I mean, there's
Hmm.
no way around that, and especially in a 1917 type game. Uh, Butler was also on their backup quarterback, so that also is a
No.
yeah. That's I was just looking at that today as well. They're on their backup quarterback for that game, or at least a majority of that game. So that's also kind of another black eye on for Murray State. So and that was at home, a home game for them
Um,
as well. So that's a tough one. I mean, they bounced back and beat the snot out of Mississippi Valley State, but they haven't even been close to a win this year. So they just might be a program that's in a different level of non-competitiveness too. So, um, but yeah, I think that the North Dakota game was interesting. I don't think anybody would have predicted a game quite like that, especially in the Missouri Valley. That's just very off-brand uh, for what we typically see.
I think, yeah. And just kind of getting off topic a little bit with this North Dakota team, this weekend is where we learn who North Dakota actually is.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, we talked about that a little bit too.
Mhm. With them taking on the Bison in Fargo, it's really gonna see, are they legitimately a top 10 team like they've been showing this season? Because, going to Ames and me being an Iowa State fan, I know two things about Iowa State. They don't show up in the first game of the season ever, and they never open the playbook either. So I really can't say if that 21 to nothing game is their effort or Iowa State just not showing up and handling the game the whole time. The Montana win, is that looking worse and worse as
A
the
little
season goes?
suspicious. Yeah, no doubt.
Exactly. We're starting to learn that Montana might not be that top 4 seed that we thought they'd be.
Hmm.
And then allowing Murray State to drop 35 on you on your home field. I called them suspect at the start of the season, and then they started getting me back on the
It
on the
pulled you back a little bit.
bandwagon.
Yep.
And I don't know. I think I might start calling him suspect again. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see that. I mean,
So
that's the game. That's of course the marquee game this
exactly.
week in the FCS, right? It's what is it, number, I believe, depending on the poll, number 2 versus number 9 or number
I,
10, depending on the poll, right? So it's
yeah.
it's a top 10 matchup, which is great. So we see that every week in the Missouri Valley. That's just the beauty of this conference. Um, but no, I think eh, digress off that a little bit, but to Murray State,
Hmm.
the other thing that we talked about a little bit before we jumped on too that was really interesting, and I think that we can really take advantage of, is how undisciplined their special teams was, or how poorly their special
Yes.
teams played last week. So uh, that's something where you go, okay, South Dakota has been unbelievable on special teams this year, both in all phases, right? I think
Yep.
punt coverage, kick return. We obviously know the explosiveness with both Bell and Jones Logan. So
Yep.
to get up against a team who is showing a lot of poor play on special teams makes me want to call for a couple big plays on special teams. It doesn't have to be touchdowns, right? I think one of them certainly can be, but we're talking blocked punts, kick return for touchdown, punt return for touchdown, or you know, big flip of the field. I think there's going to be some of that happens on Saturday.
Okay, first of all, why the heck does ESPN stats show us touchback percentage for USD, but I can't get it won't tell me how many kick returns Keandre Jones has.
Ooh, you might have to switch to or just go to the maybe the Go Yotes page shows some of those statistics,
Exactly.
but yeah, to your point, I mean the one caveat I will say to that, Murray State's kicker actually has a very strong leg. They were kind of talking about that throughout the game. So I worry
Yep.
that there may be a lot of touchbacks, and I don't know what the touchback percentage is. Maybe it should be. Maybe did you say it did show it on that? But
It's well, and I was looking at USDs because I'm curious
oh
because to my memory, Keandre Jones has actually only returned the ball 2 times.
yeah, I think you're. I
I think
think
he's
that's
2 for 2.
accurate. I believe that is accurate. I can't think of another time where he's brought it out. We could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure you're right on that.
Yeah. So, I mean, if they're dumb enough to give him a chance, it's game over. Coach, I've already gave. Heck, I texted him myself, but he needs more praise. Coach Rosenthal and the effort he's put in. So we don't have a legitimate special teams coach or special teams coordinator like FBS does. You have those random people in the background that handle those as well. Coach Rosenthal has been handling that. And not only has he been handling it, he has kicked this program up a notch because of what he's done with that team. Kick return, kick special, or kickoff, punt return, and punting all are legit. They tackle well, and the lanes that they've had to run, I have never seen a team put these well of lanes out there on any return.
Yeah, it just creates opportunities, but then the one thing it's one of those things that you forget about when it is good, right? You forget about
Mhm.
how important special teams is when it's good, when your team's special teams is doing well, kind of gets put on the back burner until it's bad. Like we saw
Yep.
Murray State against North Dakota. It basically took them out of the game, in my
Yep.
opinion. So Murray State was going punch for punch with UND. It was a first quarter was back and forth, and then the special teams just completely derailed them because you really talk about they lost out on 3 possessions, and UND scored on 2 of them. So
Exactly.
that's uh, that's the only thing I would say too. Looking into Saturday, I don't think that we want to get into a track meet type game. I don't think that as advantageous for us. I think we can still win a track meet type game if we want to.
Mhm.
Um, but that's about the only thing that I saw that would give them a glimmer of hope in this game, in my opinion. Right? It's the
Yeah.
we get into a track meet, you go into halftime in a 24-21 game, and they go, "Oh my gosh, okay, we're in this game. Let's keep things rolling." But with the way the defense has played this year, again, we're a top 10 defense in the country. I think it's actually closer to top 4, I believe, in
Mhm.
the country. I have a really hard time believing that our defense is going to allow some of the things that UND allowed on Saturday. I just don't see it.
Yeah. And real quick to the people that are following along with us live, we're about to get into the keys for the game. So if you have any that you'd like to throw in, definitely throw those in the comments here. But like you said, I truly don't. Well, coach would get pretty worked up if we turned it into a track meet. He definitely
Hmm.
doesn't want it, but we win any type of game that they want to throw at us.
I agree.
I keep coming back to it, and I think this is, I don't know, maybe we call it the fishing deck team, but we got a boat full of lures and they all work.
Yeah.
You just need to know when's eh, are we at the right spot to throw that right lure? So I think that's probably I love my analogy on that. I'm gonna hold on.
Yeah, I like it. I
I might
like
get
it.
that trademarked. But I just, regardless of whatever game this turns into, I'm confident in our abilities, but
Mhm.
we were scared of the potential that Southern Illinois had with their passing and running. I'm not scared of Murray State's passing ability. Let's just throw Reed and Barros out there on islands, press coverage. Our D line will eat up their linemen like that. I don't see them able to run on us then with 8, 9 in the box, press coverage out there on the edges.
Mhm.
Make them try to win in the air because then you get shorter back there. We'll walk away with plenty of picks.
Yeah, I agree, and that actually, as you said, keys to the game, that leads into the keys of the game
Yep.
for me. So I don't know if you do you wanna transition to that? Should we do the keys of the
Yeah,
game
let's
now to
go for
okay.
it.
So, those that's kind of what I had written down, right? I think the keys of the game for us is, I already mentioned it, don't let it turn into a track meet, like they had in at UND. Again, I
Mhm.
don't think this defense is gonna do that. And then you said my second, those are the two biggest ones that I had. Don't turn into a track meet. And I think the other one is make the quarterback beat you with his arm. I think
Yep.
we saw in film that he has the ability to run the ball, is dangerous when he's running the ball, wants to run it. Force him to sit back there and pass it, because to your point, our secondary is good enough that he's, from what I saw, kind of careless with some of his passes at times, forces
Mhm.
some things in there, and our corners will feast off of that, right? We've got a secondary that I think is second to none in the valley, and I think they'll take full advantage of that. So
Exactly. You know, I don't want to get too crazy in this with the keys. It is just show up, be the number 5 team in the nation, do whatever the heck you want.
yeah,
I mean, easy way to say it
right.
because you keep saying don't turn it into a track meet. Their defense is going to allow us to turn it into a track meet. Is really what it comes down to, and it's just don't let them respond.
Hmm.
We will do whatever the heck we want. We really will. But then, of course, we all make these jokes, and it ends up being a 24-0 win. Is what
Yeah,
USC,
right,
which at that
right.
point we're not covering. So,
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I saw somebody put in the chat here. Looks like USD minus 23 versus Murray State right now for the line. So,
yep,
um, yeah, I think you're right with that. I think we can, offensively. I think we have an opportunity to score it any way we want. And to your point, we just have to not allow those things to happen on the other side. And I think they're in good position to do that.
yep, exactly. So I think, and to the people following along with us, I think it's time to get into the score predictions.
Oh
So if
yes,
you
oh yes.
if you guys got any predictions, feel free to throw it in there. Maybe what we'll do is we'll start keeping track of these. We'll throw them on the notes when we post this on Twitter, and we'll see who can get closest to it.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Having a little fun with that.
any frequent flyers in the comments. We can start keeping a score, right? Tally it up, who gets the closest
Exactly.
between us and commenters and things like that. So yeah, Jordan, I see Jordan made a comment here
Hmm.
too. No injuries, right? We've avoided the injury bug so far this year. So knock
Yep.
on wood, we'll keep that going. Keep that going this week. So, but do you want to do
Exactly.
your store prediction first, or would you want me to
All
go first?
right. Yeah, since you were being so secretive about yours, even in the warm up before we started chatting with everybody, I have 56-13.
Big blowout.
Big blowout. I think, it's one of those situations where their kicker's been pretty good at this, so I think he's going to be pretty consistent, but we might get to some possessions where we bend, they get
Mhm.
into field goal range, but we don't break.
Yep.
And we might get lucky enough where it does turn out to be they throw a pick, they fumble, whatever in those situations, and they're going to get a touchdown. It's hard to post a shutout in at any level, especially
Mhm.
against a conference opponent. So that's where the 56-13 comes from.
Got it. No, I like it. And I see a lot of them that are rolling in here. So, My prediction, a little bit similar to what you were just saying.
Okay.
My prediction, I've got 49-20.
Okay.
So I do think they're going to score a little bit. However, I think that will be more of a product of us scoring a lot as opposed to our defense not stopping them. I think they're just going to get a lot of opportunities with the
Mhm.
football if we move the ball on that. So, and to your point, they've got a good kicker. I think they'll find some points along the way. It's at home, for them, so that's certainly something that's always a little bit more helpful as well. So, I've got 49-20. Obviously, Yotes on that one. So,
Which I am curious. We'll run through all these people here, but we're getting into that season of homecoming games. I don't know if this is homecoming or not, so uh, don't quote me on that. But it is something to definitely start keeping in mind on when it comes to these games, because I know here comes a heck of a transition for you. Next week, you and I in the dome. Not you and me, Grant, but
yeah,
University of Northern Iowa
you and
come
I
to
will
the
be there though.
dome. Yeah, we will be there. But they're coming to the dome, and not only is it time for payback, which, as a thank you, you and I, you started this entire thing. I think last I saw since that game, we've been 15-4.
That could be.
So
That could be.
I think it's something along those lines. So they did start us in the right direction, but it's payback time, and it is actually homecoming. It is D-Days.
It is. And I said it on the show on Monday. I said you're going to hear from me at least 3 more times. Go out and grab your buddies, grab your
Mhm.
family, bring them to the dome on net, not this Saturday, the following for D-Days. Make plans now for
Yes.
D-Days. Be at the dome on Saturday, make it a sellout. It's going to be a great game. So that's where we can impact the game, right, as a fan, is being at the dome for that. So um, I will say, uh, stadium activities and things like that, I do have to shout out Murray State. They do have one of the coolest entrances in college football, which I was unaware of
Yes.
until this week. So if you look it up online, you can see it. But they are, of course, the Murray State Racers, right? Kind of
Mhm.
a play on the Kentucky Derby, if you will, being in Kentucky. So they've got a racehorse that leads them out, and they kind of come out of these racehorse gates as a football team. So shout out to Murray State. That's pretty darn
It's clever.
cool. I think from what I understood from doing a little research, that maybe the horse does a lap around the track as well when they score. So that kind of made me smile. I thought, all right, that's kind of cool. They've got a little bit of that going on. So we'll see if we get a glimpse of the horse coming out on the pregame on Midco. I don't know if they'll catch that or not.
Just just the pregame. That's the only time they get to show it off.
That's what I was gonna. Yeah, pregame only. There's not gonna be a lot of laps run by the old horse. So
Exactly. And I will say, continue on with Grant and what he was saying about bringing friends. If you bring your friends and you introduce them to me at tailgate, I will think of a reward. I will start handing out rewards.
there you go.
Fortunately, I can't just hand out Jello shots because now we're in a competition and I need to step up my game compared to what I did last week. So that's going to be a big time. I got a few tricks up my sleeve. So, Jordan, if you're still watching, you guys are going down. We're going to raise more on this. But definitely feel free to swing by the tailgate. Even if you have season tickets and there's no spots around you, tell your friends to buy some. Come tailgate with us and then send them into the stands. They'll have a blast at the game. This team is fun. But I do want to go through real quick so everybody else that are listening along after the fact know kind of where the predictions were. We do have Jordan here. He threw out a prediction of 45-14, which actually I kind of like all these except for Yote fan here. That one's a little too close for my comfort.
Yeah,
We
35-24. I see. Yeah.
Yep, 35-24. So that one, hey, I'm all right with throwing out some close for comfort games. That's gonna happen. Then we got Grandma Tappy in the comments actually at 40-10. I like it. And then, hey, Grandpa's agreeing with you, 49-17.
Yeah, I think everyone's on the same page with this. As we know, you never take anything for granted, especially in the Missouri Valley. So a
Mhm.
win any way you get it is a good win. But looking forward to Saturday. I think the Yotes will have a lot of success.
Perfect. Well, you got anything else you want to add?
No, I don't think so. I think
Okay.
yeah, like I said, we already made our plug for Dakota Day, so make your plans now. But otherwise, other than that, go Yotes.
Go Yotes.